Hey guys, welcome to the Dawg House Podcast. On this week's episode, got brand new guests Jose and Brandon from the Two Plane Sports Podcast. I was able to connect with them through the College Huddle, which is a great community of sports podcasters that have a representative from each state. We discuss Georgia and Oklahoma's 2024 draft class, and we also discuss Brent Venables in his third season, if there's any chance that he's on the hot seat this season. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. That really helps out. Jose and Brandon from Two Plane Sports. How we doing today, guys?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys
I'm
coming
excited
on.
to be here.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, we're gonna jump right into it and talk a little NFL draft that happened this past weekend. First off, wanted to ask you guys any surprises that came out of the draft. I'll let you guys respond, and I'll kind of give mine, and I'll kind of tell you reasons why. But yeah, any kind of like initial, just maybe big surprises or shocks from the draft.
I mean, I think in general you have to start with the Falcons taking Michael Penix, right? Like that. I don't get it. You just signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year deal, paid him a lot of money to be your guy, and then you take a kid who's 24, 25 right now. That was real surprising to me.
Yeah. What about you,
Yeah,
Jose?
I'm a big Vikings fan, so just how aggressive they were. Maybe a little too aggressive with how much they gave up to move up one spot from 11 to 10, and then giving up a ton to go from 23 to 17. But I mean, Dallas Turner, hopefully he's really good. I mean, he was good in college, so the hope is that translates in the NFL. And JJ McCarthy, I'm a believer because he is the quarterback of the future at this point, and you don't have another option.
Right.
That guy stinks.
Yeah, kind of took my thunder there, Brandon, because I'm actually not diehard, but I prefer it's usually Atlanta Falcons first and then Carolina Panthers because I've been in Charlotte so long. But I was getting WTFs, just my phone blew up all of a sudden. I was actually out with my girlfriend. And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What do you guys want me to do?" They're idiots, you know. So Kirk Cousins, you got Michael Penix first. He is a good player, but I knew he had some injuries, but the whole two ACL injuries on the same knee. He's about to be 24. He kind of had shoulder surgery. I'm just like, what are you thinking? I ideally wanted him to go defense, maybe like a Dallas Turner or edge rusher. And then maybe you could have even got him in the second round if you needed it. But just Falcons being Falcons, there's a reason why they're less than average, below average. So, I
So
mean, I don't know those GMs. You could see him over there like talking to Arthur Blank. I'm sure he's trying to pitch it a certain way, but
the
and then back
reasoning they
to
gave is crazy
yeah,
because I don't know if you saw like I think they were quoted saying like you got to take the best player with the number 8 pick. They've had the number 8 pick the last 3 years, and each time it was, I guess, outside of Drake London maybe, but you take a running back with number 8, and we had Tyler Algier have a great year the year before, then Penix now. And
yeah,
the crazy part is how old he is, like you mentioned. Like, let's just say Kirk Cousins works out all 4 years, don't resign him. Penix will be like 28 or something by the
yeah,
time he would get his opportunity. Then you might have, you know, 8 solid years with him, assuming he's like that kind of quarterback.
yeah.
Well, didn't they say that they're trying to follow the Green Bay Packers model there, where they sat Jordan Love for 3 or 4 seasons too, and now they're going to try to do it with Penix,
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, that was bizarre.
It was, and I love how they're trying to do that analogy or method to a quarterback that hasn't even played a snap yet. You know, at least Aaron Rodgers had played at least for years, and then they're adding him in there. I could see that, but I mean, he hadn't even gotten there yet. And then on the quarterbacks too, I'm with you, Brandon. JJ McCarthy, I think was a reach. I mean, I think he had a good O line, and he was maybe a little bit better than a game manager. And then Bo Nix, I don't know about him at 12. I do agree with Williams at 1, even though he's a little maybe prima donna, but I think they can build some tools around him. I do like Daniels at the Commanders. I will say Drake May be a reach. I had some Panther, or no, it's not Panther. I had some Patriot buddies. Not real excited, but we'll see. So just seems
I mean,
like
he
it was a
should be
hot QB draft.
He should be better than Mac Jones for them. With JJ McCarthy, he reminds me exactly of Mac Jones. I think they're the exact same player. I think there's a lot of similarities with those two. And Bo Nix at 12 to Denver. They seem to have a history of just taking bad quarterbacks in the first round. They took Paxton Lynch in the first round. John Elway, he might not be the best guy at identifying quarterback talent.
Completely agree. And then with all those quarterback decisions and being a Falcons fan, that would be great for them to try out some Viva tequila to wash all those sorrows away and just drink a little bit, take the pain away from those terrible Michael Penix Jr. pick. But Viva Tequila, great sponsor of the show. For 20% off, got Dawg House 20, Dawg House 20 for 20% off. I enjoy the watermelon, elderberry, huckleberry. 0 carbs, 0 sugars. Great for the pool season coming up and tailgates. Great, also great on the golf course. So check it out. Dawg House 20% off. Viva Tequila Seltzer.
Those
And
things look
then
tasty. Brandon might need some of those this football season with his fish.
it is.
I think the Dolphins will be better than the Vikings.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We'll see. But I like the Dolphins a little bit this year.
Hey, speaking of that, are you a Tua guy, or is it going to be time next year or last year? What's your thoughts on Tua?
I'd like to think I'm a Tua guy. I think he's got all the tools I think you need to be good. He can make every throw. The problem with him, and I think maybe just the Dolphins in general, is every time that it matters, they freeze up, and he freezes up too. So and it's a pretty big knock on a quarterback.
Yeah. He was great in college. I just maybe him being so injury prone and the concussions, but I think he's got all the tools. I mean, he's got a track team over there. It's just, and it seems like he's got a great offensive coordinator, man. Or the head coach. He's a wizard.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Mike McDaniel and how he calls the plays on offense. We just got to be able to protect Tua. I think the O-line is still a question mark. But yeah, the running backs and receivers around him, probably the best in the league.
For sure. And then how about your Vikings? Who's going to be their quarterback? I guess who they get?
Sam Darnold is the guy that was signed, before the draft, and he stinks. He's had good games, so I guess there's some positive to have there. But I think JJ McCarthy will get the starting position at some point in the season. And honestly, it doesn't matter who the quarterback was going to be. I think you weren't going to get one of the top guys. As much as that was rumored, Drake May, there's still a lot of questions when you listen to experts, especially quarterback gurus, talk about him. There's still a lot of polishing to do there with his mechanics. But the weapons they have around whoever the quarterback is going to be, you have to at least look average, in my opinion. If you don't look at least average, you're going to stink at any other position or any other situation. You have arguably the best receiver in the NFL, a very talented second-year wide receiver in Jordan Addison, top 5 tight end in TJ Hawkinson, 2 very good tackles in Darisaw and Brian O'Neill, an offensive line that was pretty good. Picked up Aaron Jones, so the run game should be there because it was absolutely anemic last year. And Brian Flores made that defense go from one of the worst in the NFL to pretty respectable last year. When you pick up Dallas Turner, we lost Danielle Hunter, so not ideal. But they definitely addressed the needs. They didn't have very many picks after they made all the moves in the first round. So there's still probably some things they'll need to address with free agents. But I think overall, this team, if the quarterback play is good, it doesn't have to be great, but good, they can win 9 games because of all the skill they have all over the offense.
Yeah, that should probably potentially get you maybe wild card game or something.
That's where we live. That's the Vikings. You either just middle of the road and then you get stomped in the wild card or divisional round and then go pick in the late teens, early 20s and just redo the cycle. This time, you can ask Brandon, from the moment the NFL season started, I wanted this season to just be a tank job because the quarterbacks are going to be really good. Kirk Cousins, Kwesi, the GM, from the moment he got the job, basically bashed Kirk Cousins, called him not. He said he wasn't the franchise quarterback he wanted. I think his quote was like to the kind of on the vein of like he's not a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen type quarterback. He's just serviceable. And
Right.
Kirk Cousins proved to be better than just serviceable, but he was getting paid way too much money to not win meaningful playoff games or meaningful games in general. Um, so he was going to get moved, and you got to pay Justin Jefferson. There's a lot of money that's about to get thrown out over the next couple off seasons. So
Right.
it was bound to be a quarterback, but we
Right.
just had to win a few too many games with Josh Dobbs.
There you go. He's probably just trying to get paid and get a contract or get a spot, I'm sure.
Hey, I
Where
totally
is
get
Josh
it.
Dobbs now?
He's a free agent, I'm pretty sure.
Is he free agent still? Yeah. He had a couple really good games last year for y'all though.
Mhm.
The past
I
or
think
not.
he definitely got himself a position to be a backup quarterback somewhere if he isn't already.
Yep. And then jumping right into Georgia. Georgia gets 8 guys in the draft, which I thought they would potentially get a little more. It's actually the least amount since 2020. Could be sign of the times with NIL and things are getting more balanced. But thought Brock Bowers maybe would went a little higher, but he ends up going 13 to I think that's
Yeah, he
wrong
went to
there.
the Raiders.
Yeah, I don't know. That must be a misprint. So that's a Atlanta online Athens edit or a problem there. But yeah, he goes to the yeah, and then Emarius Mims goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. Ladham Conkey, which I thought was great, went to the Chargers. Ended up with 8. Zion Logue actually went to the Falcons, which was great because there's always been this conspiracy that Atlanta Falcons don't like Georgia players. So that was good that they picked up. And also we had some free agents. Kendall Milton, and who ended up going to the Eagles, and also Dejon Edwards ended up signing with Pittsburgh Steelers, and then I believe Rosemary Jack Saints, he went to a team as well. So I wish we would have had more, and I believe the number one team was Michigan, which was 13. Obviously, then win the national title. So I guess a little bit of down year, but still great for recruiting. But having 8 guys go in the draft, but still good for Kirby. But yeah, I don't know if you guys pay attention to that, but what's your thoughts on Georgia's draft?
I mean, having eight dudes go is that's pretty efficient, and a lot of those guys were first, second, third rounders. I think I only saw a couple in the 5th and 6th there. So I mean, it's pretty strong. We only had 3 this year, so it was a real down year draft wise for Oklahoma. We had a lot of guys signed as UDFA's, but we only had 3 drafted. So I mean, eight's real good.
Yeah,
I honestly,
sorry, good.
I also think Brock. I don't think it was a reach. It just wasn't the team to go to.
Yeah.
Like if he didn't get hurt, there's a world where he could have made a running for at least the Heisman finalist position. Probably not won it, but
Yeah.
he's been one of the best, if not the best player in college football for the last couple of years. So really it doesn't make sense why the Raiders took him. But if the Chargers would have taken him at some with their pick, it would have made a little bit of sense because he's a pretty good blocker too. He's not just a pass catcher. So Harbaugh would have actually utilized him. But I guess the Raiders decided he was their guy.
Yeah, and then all the predictions I was hearing was the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers. I'm kind of glad he didn't go there because I feel just players that go there just disappear into mediocrity and you never hear from them or injuries. So I'm glad he didn't go there. But now they just got to find a quarterback. I don't even know who's going to be the Raiders next. I think it's Garner Minshew, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
So,
him yeah.
So
not great.
see. And I did look it up, by the way. Joshua Jobs appeared at Wikipedia is with the San Francisco 49ers. So he is on the team.
Hey, he's got a chance to be good there. If Brock Purdy gets hurt, which happens all the time in 49ers land, not hoping that it does, but he could actually have some solid games in that system.
Yep. And then talking a little Oklahoma Sooners here. Looks like Tyler Guyton. You guys can touch on these gentlemen. The Dallas Cowboys, Walter Roos, offensive lineman, Minnesota Vikings, and then Jonah Lalulu, probably butchered that, defensive tackle. I know you guys had some free agents. Any thoughts on these guys? I know you know a lot more than I do.
So I
I
think
like Tyler
Tyler.
Guyton to Dallas a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. Tyler Guyton to Dallas makes a lot of sense because they need they always have a good offensive line and they need to retool there. Walter Rouse, I think, is a sneaky good pickup for the Vikings. But he's probably not gonna play much for a couple of years if he's good enough to stay on the roster because, like I mentioned earlier, we have two really good tackles. But if they decided not re-sign Brian O'Neill at the end of this contract, he's a guy that could slide into that right tackle spot. And you actually did say the last guy's names right, Jonah Lulu.
Okay.
I always butcher it as well, but he's good. It'll be interesting to see if he actually makes the 53-man roster. But he got moved to defensive tackle last season, and he did much better than he did the year before because he was a transfer from Hawaii a couple of seasons ago. Was supposed to play like ed or defensive end, was okay, but got moved to defensive tackle and was much more productive last season.
Yeah, a lot more impactful on the inside there. And then you got, I mean, the one that we talked about in our show most recently is Drake Stoops signing with the Chargers. That I think was real interesting because that position that Drake Stoops plays in the slot there, it's going to be tricky for him to earn a slot spot with Puka Nacua being there. So I'm curious to see how that works out for Drake. I think Drake will make the team. I think Drake Stoops is a hell of a football player. I'm sure he'll find a way, but I just thought the Chargers may not have been the best spot for him to go to.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's still very respectful having three guys get drafted, and then I think it was what, six undrafted. And I feel like those are diamonds in the rough. I mean, you got the Brock Purdy's and all that ones getting picked up these days, and the injuries. He gives you a chance right away, come up from the practice squad, make an impact. So yeah, that's great. Also want to get a shout out because I connected with you guys through the College Huddle. So College Huddle is a community of podcasters across the United States and have a representative from each state. Um, Jose and Brandon being with Oklahoma, and then myself being with Georgia. So I just want to give a shout out. I think it'll be great collaboration and other things to come. A lot more content. So really appreciate the College Huddle. And then my next big question is, wanted to welcome you boys to the SEC and get your thoughts on moving over to a new conference and what are you guys excited about and ready to see?
I'm
I think the
pumped.
thing that I'm most excited about is these road games for us are going to be.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yes, sorry, yeah, I think my Wi-Fi is giving me some issues here, but what I'm most excited about is the road games. I think it's going to be a lot of fun being able to go down to Athens to get to go watch the game versus Georgia or the Alabamas of the world, the LSUs of the world, Auburn even. I think every road game outside of Vanderbilt is going to be pretty electric now versus going to Kansas State or Kansas or Stillwater or something. It's obviously it's going to be a better challenge, a lot better teams, but I'm just excited about the move in general and being able to travel to some really cool places for some college football.
Totally agree there. And one thing, I think SEC fans in general, not Georgia fans or Bama fans really, because those two teams are the best in the country and they've shown it for years now. But SEC fans in general, when they talk about welcoming Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC, just believe that they are Georgia and Alabama, and that's just not the case. I think when you look at the makeup of this conference, Oklahoma and Tech and what Texas is now, not what they have been, before Sark, have an argument that they are, in the top five in the conference. Georgia, Bama, top two. I think that's undeniable. Until someone dethrones both of those schools, they're going to be the top of the conference. But outside of that, it's always everyone under those two schools seems to always, it's kind of a mix every year. Sometimes LSU has a big year, but then there's years like, Brian Kelly's last 2 years were not up to expectations. Ole Miss, I think next year has a really good squad, but who knows if they're going to live up to the expectation? Because last year they were supposed to be pretty solid too, and not that they were terrible, but they weren't, competing for the SEC and a potential playoff spot. Mizzou absolutely sucks. I'll never say a good thing about them personally. And the rest of the conference can be competitive, but when you look at it as a whole, Oklahoma and Texas are not at the bottom of the power rankings, in my opinion. They're somewhere in that top 5, top 7, maybe, but maybe I'm just being a homer in that regard.
I mean, I definitely agree with you. I mean, I think you hit it on the head with Georgia and Alabama. You can't until somebody beats them, they've got to be the top 1 and 2. But there's nothing like seeing a Mississippi State fan or something, on Twitter saying, "Oh, I can't wait for OU to come to the SEC." Like, you don't want that. We're gonna hammer you.
Yep. Yep, completely agree, and very definitely respect your guys' offense. Texas coming over, they're getting built like a SEC. They were definitely a legit team last year. But yeah, I think it'll be like you said, it'll be able to have marquee games you don't normally have. We got to go to Texas this year for the first time. We got to go to Alabama, brutal schedule, and Ole Miss. So we're have a big challenge this year. I mean, I'm hoping at least 10-2 to make the playoffs, maybe get kind of that 6th or 7th seed. But I'll take 11-1. But I mean, if we have some injuries or Carson Beck gets hurt, we could be. I mean, there's possibility at 5 or 6 top 25 teams. Like we got Clemson right away. That's not going to be a cakewalk. So just they didn't do us any favors. So it should be exciting.
As an SEC team, how do you feel about no divisions anymore? Do you think that benefits you guys or benefits anyone really?
Yeah, I was very traditionalist, so I like the whole East and West. And I will say, I know the landscape of college football, that's a whole other thing, has changed NIL. And with you guys coming over, I kind of hate to say, got a little sentimental and kind of like lost that the whole thing's kind of changing. It's going to mega conferences, but I can definitely see why it's all the networks and contracts and everything. But I just kind of want to know. I still got to look into it. These all tiebreakers. So let's say LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia all end up with one loss. Who's going to get the first 2? That type thing. Also, I think the SEC championship game, since it's a marathon this year, not a sprint, is going to be not as impactful. It's going to be not mean as much. So I was even telling somebody on a podcast recently, I was like, "Hey, I'll take 10-2. You guys." I think some guy thought Missouri could jump in there and you guys could play Alabama and we save our legs and not get any injuries and make it in the playoffs. We might not make it in the top 4 and get a bye week, but you're not going to play 17 games and that gauntlet, and you might have some bad injuries in that. So I'm kind of like, I think the SEC championship is not the goal anymore. It used to be. So I'm kind of looking at things like that. But it'll be definitely new to answer your question on not having the East and the West.
I could see it. I guess the only reason it would be impactful because of the bye, because it's the top 4 seeds, right? That get the
That's
automatic bye week in the playoff.
from what I've been reading, yeah.
Yeah, so there's no way that the SEC champion isn't one of the top 4 seeds. I can't imagine a world. I could even see, because I guess I don't really remember it. I'd have to look at it again. But top 4 seeds are conference champions.
Right.
Is that group of 5 automatic bid automatically the number 5 seed?
I'd have to look into that. That's a good question.
Because if it's not, then the number 5 team could easily be the runner-up of the SEC championship.
Right. Yeah, and then I think it'll be hard. Let's say a 10-2 team made it, and then they lose the SEC championship game. I think they should still get in. I know it's a lot, but just the fact that they made it there, they should be able to definitely get in the top 12.
Yeah. I was saying something a while ago that they're thinking about like giving automatic bids per conference. So like the SEC would have, 3 or 4 teams make it every year in the playoffs. The Big Ten, same. The Big 12, all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would ever actually happen. That seems to kind of diminish it a little bit less. But I guess there's 12 spots, so we'll probably see 4 SEC teams every year, if not more.
Right. I see that. And then looking ahead, I know you guys, this will be third year with Brent Venables.
Yes, sir.
So 16-10 in his third year. I know usually third or fourth year is very important. So, and you're entering the SEC. So what's your thoughts so far on Brent Venables? I think he had a definitely good recruiting season, I believe. So what's your thoughts on that and kind of the barometer and the pulse from the Sooner Nation?
So, I mean, that first year with Brent Venables, I kind of missed it. I was gone for some military training stuff, but we lost a lot when Lincoln Riley decided to leave how he did and took a lot of players with him, and Brent Venables kind of had to start over there. So I think that first year's was going to be tough on anybody. So that was obviously a down year for us. I think he did a great job last year, bouncing back, winning 10 games. We did have a couple bad losses there. I think both losses in the regular season should have been wins. We lost a close one to Oklahoma State and a close one at Kansas, which is they weren't great games. That was bad. But this year, I think you've got all the weapons you need to be really, really good in the SEC. I think it comes down to our trench play. If we can protect Jackson Arnold because he's got all the weapons around him, and if we can apply pressure to opposing quarterbacks with our D line, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, that's basically what we've been saying since the end of the season and looking at the SEC schedule. Because I mean, no matter what we think the SEC is or was, like the key in the conference is if you're gonna win any games there, you have to be the most physical team on any given Saturday. And Oklahoma's replacing every offensive lineman. They've got a whole new group of 5 there, and they lost some guys on the defensive line, but honestly, this is probably the most experienced defensive line group they've had in a while and talented, picking up a 5-star in each of the last 2 recruiting cycles at the defensive line. You bring back Trace Ford and he was pretty productive for Oklahoma last year. Ethan Downs, who was one of the better players at getting tackles for loss last season in the Big 12. We led the conference in tackles for loss. The defensive backs have gotten a lot better when it comes to creating turnovers. They do give up a lot of yards though, so they just gotta stop bending so much because it can get dangerous. Like Georgia, that Georgia game kind of it brings back nightmares. But I don't think Georgia's offense isn't gonna not capitalize on those opportunities. If a team like Oklahoma keeps bending at some point, that kind of offense will just demolish them, in the fourth quarter, even third quarter, because Georgia is that physical of a team.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't want to be that guy though, but I wanted to ask. So Brent Venables in his third season, very important. If he goes 7, 8 wins, warm seat maybe for that following year. Like what's some expectations, or does he need to try to replicate the 10-3 NER in the SEC? What's the leash there? I guess.
I think if he wins 8 games, if they go 8-4, I think we'd be a little disappointed, but I don't think he'd be in jeopardy yet. I think if he goes 6-6 again, I think then that's when we're going to start starting to hit the panic button a little bit, maybe thinking that I think that's when the seat gets pretty warm. I think that 6 or 7 win mark, I think, is where people would start to get worried.
Yeah, and it's got probably also the fashion in which they lose. I think he can buy himself a couple extra years if it's like 8-4, but those 4 losses were pretty close. That's basically what happened in his first year. Those 6 losses he had were all 1-score games, and he recovered, bounced back in year 2. So if he has kind of that built-in, don't want to say excuse, but the cushion where first year in the SEC, like they're all getting used to the travel preparation for this style of football, then an 8-4 with close losses buys him 2 more years. But if they get smoked in however many losses they have, then I do think that seat gets pretty warm.
And then who's your? I didn't follow you guys in spring. Who's your quarterback? Probably leading in to the summer camp.
It'll be Jackson Arnold.
What do you guys think about him compared to, is it Dylan Gabriel? I know he transferred.
Yeah. DG went to Oregon. I think he had a good season for us, but we're all very, very excited about Jackson Arnold here in Norman and around Oklahoma. He's a kid that's, the 5-star prospect coming out. Made some throws in the bowl game. He made some, mistakes. And I think we're going to have to anticipate him making some mistakes because this is his first year starting, and he's going to be doing it against the best of the best. And I think, like you guys' schedule and stuff, I think they gave us a pretty tough one too in year one here. We've got Alabama, we've got Ole Miss, we've got LSU in Baton Rouge, we've got Texas is going to be tough. I mean, I think the schedule is pretty tough for us too. But Jackson Arnold can make all the throws in the world. It comes down to him limiting some of those mistakes that are inevitable because he is such a young kid right now still. I think if he can limit those mistakes and not kill you with them, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah. How about any thoughts on Jackson Arnold, Jose?
I mean, he was the number 3 quarterback in the 2023 class, which was stacked. I mean, it was, Arch Manning, Jaden Rashada, who is your guys' quarterback now, or backup quarterback, if I remember correctly. So
I don't know what to think about him real quick. There was that graphic I saw the other day. So committed to Miami, got that $12 or $13 million deal to Florida, turned that down, goes to Arizona State, and you're back to Georgia. I just hope he knows, hey man, you got to sit and wait. So if not, I don't know what they gave him NIL, but I know the kids are very. You got to see what's out there. I just feel like maybe a little bit of a head case. Not talk. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard much, but 4 schools when I see that, or anyway. So we'll see.
He was talented. I mean, he was. If Jackson Arnold didn't commit to Oklahoma when he did, the rumor was that Jaden Rashada he was supposed to be on campus the week after,
Right.
and the expectation was that he was committing on the spot because he had such a good relationship with Jeff Lebby, who was the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma at the time. But Jackson kind of just beat him to the punch, and I think looking back, we did get the better of the two, but Jaden is very talented in its own respect. But yeah, the bouncing around was a weird situation because like the rumor was he left Miami for a bigger NIL deal at Florida, but then Florida didn't follow through on their NIL deal.
Sure.
So he got his letter of release, like the release or whatever from them.
Right.
And then ASU's just they're a weird squad. They had some times where they looked good and then they looked terrible because he got hurt at some point and they had basically a very inconsistent quarterback play for most of the season.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think
it's added depth, but yeah.
I think that point you just mentioned there with Jeff Lebby too is for Oklahoma moving to the SEC. It's a little off base here, but we're replacing the offensive coordinator. We got a two OC set now with Joe John Finley and Seth Luttrell, so that'll be interesting. Anytime you have two guys calling plays on offense, I think is going to be interesting. I don't know how they're exactly going to work that out, and we're replacing a defensive coordinator with a very young dude, and I'm excited about that too. Zach Alley, I think he's like 30, so he's going to be probably the youngest coordinator in the SEC. I mean, at that high of a level. So I think it's gonna be fun to follow that and see how that all plays out for us.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And then I really appreciate you guys coming on. How do we guys follow you on social media?
At 2 Plane Sports on Twitter, at 2 Plane Sports on Instagram, and then same thing on YouTube.
Yeah, I got you right here at 2 Planes. Very, very impressive for the 4,000 followers and the also the 6,000 subscribers. That's really impressive.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on, and I know excited for the off season, and it'll be here before we know it.
Thanks,
sir.
man.
It'll be
Appreciate
fun to we'll have to revisit this during the actual football season when we have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. And I really appreciate you going on. I'll give you a go Sooners and go Dogs. And if everybody's still around, make sure to like, subscribe, and share Dawg House Podcast, and we'll have more episodes down the road. All right, guys. Appreciate it.